Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Learn English podcast. I'm Clara.
And I'm Mark. Thanks for joining us today. This podcast is all about helping you improve your English while learning about interesting and important topics.
Exactly. And today, our topic is something that affects the entire world climate change.
We'll explore what climate change really means, why it's important, and what we can do about it. Along the way, you'll also learn new vocabulary, phrases, and ways to express your ideas in English.
So grab a notebook or just relax and listen. Let's get started.
So, Clara, let's start with a simple question. What exactly is climate change?
Well, climate change is basically the long term change in average weather conditions, like temperature, rainfall, and wind, over many years. Of course, the Earth's climate has always changed naturally, but what's happening now is different. It's happening much faster, and it's mainly caused by human activities.
Right? The biggest reason is the burning of fossil fuels, things like coal, oil, and natural gas. We use them every day for electricity, transportation, and heating. But when we burn them, they release gases like carbon dioxide, which trap heat in the atmosphere.
Exactly. This is called the greenhouse effect. So now that we understand what climate change is, let's move on to the big question. Why does it matter? Why should we care?
That's right. Some people think, well, the Earth has always changed, so maybe this isn't a big deal. But the truth is, climate change affects every part of our lives. Our health, our food, our homes, and even our jobs.
Let's break it down. First, health. When the weather gets hotter, heat waves become more dangerous. Elderly people, children, and those with health problems can get sick or even die during extreme heat. And don't forget about air pollution. Warmer air can trap more pollutants, making it harder to breathe.
Second, food and water. Climate change disrupts rainfall patterns. Some areas get too much rain and floods destroy crops. Other areas get too little rain, leading to drought. Farmers struggle, and food becomes more expensive or harder to find.
That's already happening in many parts of the world. I recently read about farmers in East Africa who lost their harvest because the rains never came. Families were left with very little food.
Yes, and here's another point. Safety and homes. Rising sea levels threaten coastal cities like Jakarta, New York, and Miami. Millions of people might lose their homes if sea levels continue to rise.
And stronger storms and hurricanes mean more destruction. Imagine losing your house overnight because of a flood or wildfire. It's heartbreaking.
But it's not only about people. Climate change also impacts animals and ecosystems. Polar bears are losing their ice habitats, coral reefs are bleaching, and many species face extinction.
Yes, and when ecosystems collapse, humans are also affected. For example, if bees die out, pollination decreases, and that hurts food production. It's all connected.
Another important point is fairness. Climate change doesn't affect everyone equally. Wealthier countries can adapt more easily with technology and money. But poorer communities often suffer the most, even though they contribute the least to the problem.
That's such an important message. Climate change is not just an environmental issue, it's also a social and ethical issue.
Listeners, think about your own community. How would climate change affect your food, water, health, or safety? Try to describe it in English. For example, in my city, floods destroy the roads during the rainy season. Or summers are getting hotter and more uncomfortable.
That's a great practice. By thinking and speaking about these issues in English, you're improving your language skills and raising awareness at the same time. So, to sum it up, climate change matters because it affects our health, food, water, safety, animals, and even social fairness.
Exactly. It's not a problem for the future. It's happening now, and it's already changing our world.
We've talked about what climate change is and why it matters, but let's make it more personal. Mark, have you noticed any changes in your own city or daily life?
Definitely. Summers are getting hotter where I live. When I was younger, 30 degrees Celsius felt very hot. Now, we regularly hit 35 or even 38 degrees. Last year, we had one of the worst floods in decades. The water reached the first floor of some houses, and many families had to leave for shelters. It really opened my eyes.
Wow, that sounds intense. In my city, the seasons are not as predictable as before. The rainy season used to start in November and end around March, but now it comes later, or sometimes it rains heavily for just a few weeks, then suddenly stops. Farmers are struggling to know when to plant their crops.
That's a huge challenge, and I think many of our listeners can relate. Climate change isn't just about global warming, it's about local disruptions.
Exactly. Let's make this interactive. Listeners, think about your own experience. Have you noticed hotter summers, colder winters, heavier rains, or longer droughts? Try to describe it in English. For example, last summer was the hottest I can remember. We had no rain for 2 months, and then suddenly it flooded.
That's a great language exercise, and you can even share your stories with friends or write them down in a notebook. Practicing English while reflecting on real issues makes the learning more meaningful.
I remember last summer, the air quality was so bad because of forest fires nearby. For a whole week, we had to wear masks just to go outside. My throat hurt, and it was hard to breathe.
That's scary, and it's happening more often in different countries. Forest fires in Australia, California, Canada, and even parts of Europe.
Yes, these personal experiences remind us that climate change is not an abstract idea. It's real, it's here, and it affects our daily lives.
And when people share their stories, it helps others understand. It's not only about reading statistics in a report, it's about how families, communities, and individuals are living through these changes.
Exactly. And that's why raising awareness is so important. The more we talk about our experiences, the more people realize we must act. So far, we've shared our personal experiences with climate change. But let's zoom out and look at the bigger picture. Climate change doesn't affect every place in the same way.
That's true. For example, in the Arctic, temperatures are rising almost 4 times faster than the global average. Ice is melting at record speed, and that affects not only polar bears but also indigenous communities who depend on the ice for travel and hunting.
And in small island nations like the Maldives, Tuvalu, and Kiribati, rising sea levels are a serious threat. Some scientists warn that these islands might disappear in the future if global warming continues. Imagine losing your entire homeland.
Yes, it's heartbreaking. In Africa, many regions are experiencing more frequent droughts. Farmers can't rely on the rainy season like they used to, and millions of people face food shortages.
Meanwhile, in Asia, especially countries like Bangladesh, flooding is becoming a yearly disaster. Millions of people are forced to leave their homes because rivers overflow or the sea pushes inland.
Let's also mention North America. In recent years, we've seen stronger hurricanes hitting the Caribbean and the U.S., and massive wildfires in California and Canada.
Europe isn't safe either. Heat waves in France, Spain, and Italy have caused thousands of deaths in just a single summer. And in 2021, Germany experienced one of the worst floods in its history.
So clearly, climate change is a global issue, but the effects are very local. Each region has its own challenges.
Listeners, let's make this a little interactive. Can you think of one way climate change is affecting your country? Try to say it in English. For example, in my country, summers are much hotter now. We often have floods during the rainy season.
That's a great practice. And if you want, you can even record yourself and listen back. It's a good way to check your pronunciation.
Another important thing to remember is climate change creates climate refugees. These are people who have to leave their homes because of rising seas, droughts, or disasters. The United Nations estimates millions of people may become climate refugees in the coming decades.
That's powerful. It shows that climate change isn't just about science or nature. It's about human lives, migration, and even international politics.
Exactly. And that's why it's called a global challenge. No single country can solve it alone. We all need to cooperate.
Well said, Clara. In the next segment, we'll move from the problems to the solutions. We'll talk about what we can do, both as individuals and as communities, to fight climate change. Stay tuned.
We've talked about the problems, but now it's time to focus on solutions. The big question is, what can we do to fight climate change?
Yes, and I think it's helpful to divide the solutions into two levels: personal actions and collective actions. Let's start with personal actions, the things each of us can do in daily life.
Great idea. Number 1. Save energy. Turn off lights when you're not using them. Unplug your charger and use energy-efficient appliances. Small actions at home can make a big difference when millions of people do them.
Number 2, travel smarter. Cars release a lot of carbon dioxide, so whenever possible, walk, ride a bike, carpool, or use public transportation. If you must drive, maybe choose a fuel-efficient or electric car.
Number 3. Reduce waste. Recycling is important, but even better is reusing items and refusing things we don't need. For example, carry a reusable water bottle instead of buying plastic ones.
Number 4, eat responsibly. Food production, especially meat, creates a lot of greenhouse gases. We don't all need to become vegetarians, but eating more plant-based meals, even just a few times a week, really helps.
I love that point. And number 5, plant trees or join local cleanup campaigns. Trees absorb carbon dioxide, so planting them is like giving the earth fresh air.
Now let's move on to collective actions. These are things that communities, governments, and businesses can do.
For example, governments can invest in renewable energy like solar, wind, and hydropower instead of fossil fuels.
And they can also create policies that encourage companies to reduce emissions and protect forests.
Businesses can adopt sustainable practices like reducing packaging, using eco-friendly materials, or switching to clean energy in their factories.
And schools can teach young people about the environment so that the next generation is more aware and responsible.
But there's another powerful action that sometimes people forget: talking about climate change. Raising awareness is an action in itself.
That's true. When you talk about these issues with friends or family, you spread knowledge. And when more people understand, more people take action.
Let's give our listeners some practice. Here are some simple sentences you can say in English when talking about climate change. I always bring my reusable bag to the store. I try to save energy by turning off the lights. We should use more renewable energy.
Excellent. Try repeating those sentences out loud, listeners. Practicing these phrases makes it easier to share your ideas in English conversations.
So, to sum up this segment, there are many solutions, both big and small, from saving energy and reducing waste to supporting renewable energy and strong climate policies.
And remember, no action is too small. Imagine millions of people making small changes. It adds up to something powerful.
In our next segment, we'll reflect on why our individual efforts matter and how we can stay motivated in the fight against climate change. Don't go anywhere.
We've just talked about solutions, but I know some people might still feel hopeless. They think, I'm just one person. Can I really make a difference?
That's a very common feeling. But here's the truth. Yes, you can. Think of climate action like drops of water. One drop seems small, but when millions of drops come together, they form a river.
Exactly. Every small action matters. Turning off one light, planting one tree, sharing one conversation, it all adds up when millions of people do the same.
And remember, protecting the environment isn't only about the planet, it's about us. It's about our children, our health, and our future.
Right? If we reduce pollution, we breathe cleaner air. If we protect forests, we also protect animals and communities that live there. If we save energy, we also save money. So climate action brings real benefits to our daily lives.
Listeners, let's do a short reflection exercise. Close your eyes for a moment, unless you're driving, and imagine the world you want in 20 years. Do you want clean air, safe homes, healthy food, and green cities? That future is possible, but only if we act today.
That's powerful, Clara. And for language practice, let's try repeating some motivational sentences together. Ready? My small actions can create big change. I care about the planet and the people on it. Together we can make a difference.
Wonderful! Saying these sentences out loud can motivate you and also help your English fluency.
So, don't give up. Change is hard, but every great movement in history started with individuals who cared.
Exactly. And the climate movement is growing every day. People all around the world, students, teachers, workers, leaders, are joining together. You are not alone in this fight.
Beautifully said. In our final segment, we'll close with some encouragement and a reminder of what we can do starting this week. Stay tuned for the closing.
Well, we've come to the end of today's episode. We've covered a lot. What climate change is, why it matters, our personal experiences, global perspectives, solutions, and of course, a little motivation.
That's right. And the key takeaway is simple. Climate change is real. It's happening now. But we can all take action. No matter how small, your contribution matters.
Let's do a quick recap for our listeners. Understand climate change. It's caused mainly by human activities. Recognize why it matters. It affects health, food, homes, and fairness. Notice personal and local changes. Your experiences are important. See the global picture. Every region faces unique challenges. Act. Take personal steps like saving energy, reducing waste, and eating responsibly. Stay motivated. Remember, small actions add up to big change.
Perfect summary, Clara. And listeners, here's a challenge for you this week. Choose just one eco-friendly action and commit to it. Maybe it's bringing a reusable bag to the store, riding a bike instead of driving once, or planting a tree.
Yes, And here's a short English practice for you. Repeat after me. I can take small steps for a better planet. Together, we can fight climate change. The future depends on what we do today.
Excellent. Practicing these sentences will not only improve your English, but also remind you of your power to create change.
So, thank you for joining us on this journey. We hope you learned new vocabulary, gained new ideas, and felt inspired to take action.
Don't forget to subscribe.
Bye.